everyone, welcome to another Cooking with Rachel. Today we're going to be making homemade bagels. It's a lot easier than you think it sounds, and I like to use a recipe from Sally's Baking Addiction. So sorry. So first we're going to start with 1.5 cups of water. For me to figure out what's warm and not hot is I put my finger in, and if I can hold it for 10 seconds without actually crying or like screaming out, then we're good. We got pretty close to that. So I'm going to pour that into my bowl. And the next thing up is going to be sugar. Now, you can add barley malt sugar, you can add granulated sugar. I find that doing a tablespoon of brown sugar just adds a nice flavor to it. Remember, brown sugar is just molasses with granulated sugar. So I put that in there, and we're gonna let it dissolve. And then we're gonna talk about our yeast. So for yeast, you can use active dry yeast or you can use instant yeast. My husband loves using his bread machine, but so he has all this instant yeast. So I've adapted all my recipes to work with that. For this one, you need 2 3/4 teaspoons. Now that's really close to a tablespoon, but because you're watching me, I'm going to have to use the actual measurements instead of my normal just, let's see how it goes. So I'm gonna get 2 3/4 tablespoons, and if you wanna look into here, you can see the sugar's already dissolved in that hot water. I'm gonna pour my yeast in. So here's 2. But then, I don't measure the last one. I say 3/4 looks like, that's good enough. And we're gonna pour that in. Now we're gonna wait about 5 minutes for all of that yeast to activate, which means it's gonna bubble, froth, smell weird, all of the things. And then we're gonna add all of our extra ingredients and start kneading out our dough for the bagels. All right guys, so now we've waited our 5 or more minutes. We wanna at least see this foamy circle all the way around. We don't wanna just see it in pockets. Once the yeast has activated, which is that foam that you see and that you can smell if you go over it, then we're gonna be adding all of our flour and our salt. So I use just Albertsons quality bread flour. Using bread flour is not that different from all-purpose flour, but if you use bread flour, you're gonna get a wider structure inside of the bagel once it's done. And so it's the same price. I just recommend getting bread flour for making bagels, for making muffins, for making breads, all the things. So the recipe does call for 4 cups of bread flour, which I'm almost done with. And you can see it's in there. And then it adds 2 cups of salt. Now, salt is all about flavor. So if you add...
Not 2 cups.
Or sorry, 2 teaspoons of salt. So we have 1 and we have 2. Salt just adds so much flavor to your dishes. If you add too much salt, well, it might taste a little salty, but trust me, they're gonna like it. And if you add too little salt, then you're gonna tell the difference. Now, if you had a stand mixer, which is what the recipe calls for, this is gonna be so much easier than what I'm about to do. So if you notice, I really want my counters to be clean so I don't have a stand mixer. Oh wait, anyway, we're gonna be doing this by hand and then kneading it by hand. If you have a stand mixer, this calls for 2 minutes of mixing the flour and the salt with that yeast and water. If you are by hand, you're just waiting for all of it to clump together so that it will turn and you can eventually knead that dough together. Now, I see that this dough down here is getting pretty dry. You want it to be of the drier side. And I'm just gonna turn it out at this point and start kneading it. If you have a stand mixer, it will clump together on the dough hook, and you don't have to worry about all the things that I'm about to do. So highly recommend the stand mixer if you have one. All right, so since I don't have one, I'm gonna push it. Do you see how it sticks together? That's what you're wanting. You're wanting whenever I push it, it to stick together. So we're gonna do that until I get to one big dough ball, and then we're gonna knead it out. So off of Shein, my favorite place to shop, I got this cool olive oil spray bottle. So I'm just gonna spray the inside of my container with oil and then rub that around. Now, you could have cleaned this, but again, do I want to? No, I don't. So I'm also gonna spray my hand with all the olive oil, and then I'm gonna coat my big dough ball after I've kneaded it or use that dough hook on the stand mixer. for about 5 to 6 minutes. So here's my oil covered ball, goes into here, and then we need to cover it into an airtight area. Now, I like to put it just in the oven that was maybe preheated when I started this whole process, or you could just put it on your counter as long as your house is above 70 degrees. So up to you, whatever you want. It just needs to be airtight and above 70 degrees. Hey guys, so now I've waited for my dough to rise. It doesn't rise as much as you think it will, just because it's a very dense dough, but whenever it gets into our water bath over here on the stove, it's gonna really expand more than you think it will. So we're gonna take our dough and we're gonna divide it up into 8 bagels. Now you can do this with actual measurements, you can do this by hand, it's completely up to you. Right now I'm just kind of getting those crusty parts from the top, just kind of mixed in, just so that my bagel's all uniform. Now at this point, if you wanted a cinnamon raisin bagel, if you wanted a jalapeno bagel, if you wanted something of a different flavor, this is the time where you mix it in. So we're gonna be separating our dough and we're gonna make it into 8 of these sections. Now, I'm just gonna roll my dough around. I'm gonna try to make it kind of into a flatter shape. If you've ever made buns, you're gonna kind of get it like this, where you're gonna fold it over all those ugly parts. And then I like to stick my finger in the middle and then just kind of swing it around for a bit, squish it out. And that's gonna be my bagel that's going to rest right here just for a little while I finish all the others. Now, while I am doing this and shaping all my bagels, just to let you know, I have my water. It's about 1 quart or 2 of water. I just do my bagels one at a time. I found that if you do more than one at a time, they kind of get cramped for space and they won't rise as much as they can. I recommend whenever you're doing your water bath, also adding honey. That's just my Walmart version of honey, or you can use any honey that you have. It just adds a nice little flavor to the crispiness and to the edge of our bagels. So I'm gonna keep getting these all ready to go. And while you're waiting, once you have them ready to go, you can definitely cover them just with a cloth while you're waiting for that water to boil. And it's gonna be sort of like a second rise for these bagels.
Ready.
All right, so this is my water bath. You can see I kind of have my water boiling, but just mildly. I set my timer for 1 minute. I do 1 minute on each side and then I'll flip it over. The bagels start about this size. They grow to about this size in the water bath. That's why it's so important. And then whenever the baking occurs, it doesn't grow any bigger. It just kind of finalizes and adds that nice thick crust to the bagel. All right guys, so now you can see all my bagels are done. I only have 6 because I'm feeling like some bigger bagels. And also my dough didn't rise as well. I think my house is a little bit too cold. It's like 63 degrees inside. Anyway, so you can see this one's still steaming. I'm definitely gonna start with the ones that are a little bit cooler. But first I need to get my egg wash ready. So you're just gonna crack an egg, and then you're gonna be doing the egg whites only. Remember, for those egg whites, you just kind of pass the yolk back and forth between the 2 sides. It naturally separates. And then just to make my dog love me a little bit more, I'm gonna take that egg yolk that I have right here and plop it in my boiling water. And my dog will get to enjoy that in just a second. I've added a tablespoon of water to my egg white. I'm just going to real quick mix it up. You wanna see a little bit of those bubbles on there. It just means that you've whisked the egg white well enough and kind of added some air to it. You don't want it to be too dense because it'll make too thick of a coating on your bagels, and you want the egg white wash just to be a little afterthought, not a forefront. I'm using Everything Bagel seasoning. It's just from Walmart. I found it's the cheapest. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this basting brush. I'm just going to brush the top of my bagel, whichever one you want. I just chose the middle one. Get it all wet on there. Then take my bagel, put it in my Everything seasoning. I want a little bit more on this side. Make it all pretty and put it over here. And then I'm gonna do the next one. So I have all 6 of my bagels ready. It's on a lined baking sheet. You can notice that these are kind of close together. They will not grow much more. That water bath is what really makes them grow. And then this baking time is just to get that flour flavor out and really add the crust to our bagels. So I'm gonna be at 425 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes. All right, let's check out our bagels. There they are. Look Look at those guys. You can see that they're nicely browned on the bottom and the top. And yeah, should be pretty good.